What's up, beautiful people? What's up, beautiful people? This is When Men Open Up, where we are redefining manhood through transparency in partnership with WYTV7 Christian Broadcasting Network. My name is Dominique.
And I am Dexter Peggins Jr.
And we are back again with a great topic. The topic for today is small in the mirror. We had a great conversation about some things that we thought was something that we really needed to discuss.
Oh, definitely.
It was some conversations we done both had. We done had a lot of feedback from both of our pages, our Instagram pages, Facebook pages. And we really did think that this is something when it comes down to self-image, confidence, focusing on the negative and just how you view yourself overall, just be a good thing to really focus on.
Yeah. I mean, without question, it's huge. I think at the heart of the matter, there's a lot of people who are dealing with identity issues. Mm-hmm. And those identity issues are really keeping people from living, the life that they've always desired.
Right.
I'm a firm proponent in what the Bible says. I believe it's in Proverbs 23. It says that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so the reality is that we desire things, but those things aren't they aren't really in line with how we see ourselves.
Right.
And because we have a negative image of ourselves, I think oftentimes we have a tendency of shooting ourselves in the foot, regressing in the big moments, and ultimately living underneath our privilege because we have that negative self-image. So this conversation is definitely necessary.
Most definitely. And those of you that are looking at our Facebook broadcast, please feel free to share the video and invite people on. And those of you that's looking at seeing us on Instagram, thank you all for joining in. And so let's say I'm a person who has big dreams, but I see myself as small in the mirror.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that a lot of guys are really going through as far as they want to pursue so many big things, but for some reason I just don't see myself lining up to what I desire.
Yeah.
I don't think I have what it takes to accomplish that big thing. And sometimes when we don't think that we have what it takes, or we're lacking, one of the things that we'll do is we'll downgrade our dream.
True.
To make it more quote unquote realistic, to make it more more attainable.
Yeah.
And to make it more something that we can really believe. And I think that's very unfortunate because if you really have that desire in your heart, there's a reason why you have that desire in your heart. And I think it's really important for people to really dive deep in understanding what process that they have to go through in order to attain that. But the question is, why are we just focusing on where we are lacking? Mm-hmm. Why are we focusing on what we don't have right now? That's messing us up to where we don't believe that whatever we have in our hearts, I don't think that can possibly happen.
Ultimately, I think one of the main things is that we're not encouraged to pursue dreams. Mm-hmm. Because very rarely the dream seems obtainable. And I don't think it's from a bad place that people discourage us, but I believe that maybe in their minds they feel like they're protecting us. Mm-hmm. And so instead of becoming this great entertainer or something, why not get a job with the government or in the city? That's stable. We're often encouraged to pursue stability, when in the reality, if you think about it, many of those jobs aren't really even stable. So I think we're indoctrinated to not pursue our dreams. And so I believe that the new pursuit becomes being the man amongst a group of people who have given up on their dreams.
Most definitely.
And that's the most unfortunate thing. I remember working in a particular industry at one point in time. Maybe 3% of us wanted to actually be in that industry. Everybody had other aspirations, but we were all encouraged to pursue that field because everybody else said, "Hey, that's the safe route to go." And it was really sad because here we were in our young 20s, and it had already been told to give up on our dreams. And so people were frustrated, and we had to lull ourselves in a place of complacency, which we call being safe and being stable. And so I think that's one of the main things that discourages us from pursuing our dreams, because we very rarely see people we know doing it, and other people, from their vantage point, they're keeping us safe by telling us to not pursue those things.
Yeah, and let's be honest. Initially, stability in that comfort zone is called a comfort zone for a reason.
Exactly.
And our minds are almost designed to where we're gonna seek comfort. We're gonna seek what's safe.
Yeah.
The thing is, when it comes down to our desires and our passions, the things that are in our hearts, it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
It's never going to go away.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I look at it as those things that we have to really pursue. I look at it as like a void or a hole in our heart. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
And in order for us to fill that hole, we have to really pursue it. We have to really go for it and actually accomplish it. The thing is, over time, what's happening, if we keep that same pattern or that same habit, there's more and more holes that are there that needs to be filled.
Yeah.
So that's why so many of us over time, we feel empty in our hearts, because there's so many things that we're just putting aside. There's so many things that we're just saying, you know what, that's not really for me. You know what, I don't really have what it takes. And we have to really understand that that's never going away, and you're never going to feel like whole if we're not really going for those things that's really deep in our hearts.
And I like the way you said that, because that really speaks to what I was talking about, how we and I've said it before, you have literally young people who are externally alive, but on the inside they've died a long time ago, because they gave up on their dreams. I think there's an interesting thing that takes place systemically in our society, where we're taught not to pursue those things. Subconsciously, we're taught, to follow a mode and a template to keep us, quote unquote, safe. Once again, the comfort zone. And then when you start to speak on the things that are on your heart, you encounter that negativity. Ultimately, you're afraid to share it. You suppress it, and then it dies on the inside of you. I had the privilege this weekend of going to Kentucky and speaking in a conference. And one of the things that came up in that conference that I shared, I said, can the you that you see handle the stuff that you want? And that comes from the story about the children of Israel, how God was getting ready to usher them into their promised land. And when they got there, they saw giants. So the first thing they said was, the land is good, the land is great, but there's giants, and we're but as grasshoppers in their sight. And you can't handle stuff that was designed for giants if you have a grasshopper mentality. And so ultimately they missed out on the things that they wanted because their mind said that they couldn't handle it. And many of us are in a position where we aspire and we desire things, but how we see ourselves is going to keep us from being able to handle those positions when we get into them. And so I think, once again, that speaks to the significance of this conversation. We have to not only understand how these things happen, but when you recognize them within yourself, what do you do to turn the tables?
And I like that. That's the question. What do you do to turn the tables? And it really put majority of the focus on you. Not what can go wrong, but what can really go right. What do I not have, but what do I have right now that can move towards that first step? And I think that's so important. I used to work with someone, and they were so, they did what they needed to do to get the education, and it got to the point where they had enough education to actually move on up. Probably not in that job or that company, but easily somewhere else. And throughout the year, they was experiencing so much frustration, even from the supervisor, just so much irritation. This person will always just express that, you know what, every time I just show up to the job in the morning, I'm just irritated.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have to really ask ourselves, you know, what is that frustration really telling you?
Yeah.
You know, some of us, we are accepting that frustration. That's just a moment right now. That's just the way things are right now. But a lot of time when you're experiencing that resistance on that level, when you're experiencing that frustration on that level, that irritation on that level, you have to really take time out and reflect on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that can easily be a sign. But it's a beautiful thing, though, because God will allow things like that to be frustrating and allow stuff to always be a resistance so things won't get comfortable.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? So if that job is going to remain comfortable, we're going to say, you know what, this is for me.
Yeah.
Because that's how we respond to things that are comfortable. But it comes down to a point at the things that we are pursuing in life where things are not always supposed to be resistant.
Exactly.
Things are not always supposed to be, it shouldn't always feel like we're going against the grain all the
Exactly.
time. And I just feel like as a people, sometimes we always say, you know what, I think we got to be, we have to be careful with when we say, you know, get away from the comfort zone. There are some things that are meant to be comfortable in our journey. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know, I think that really speaks to when you find your groove, you know, and you're really when you're flowing out of a sense of who you are. I mean, that really becomes the new norm, where it's very smooth. Even in chaos, it's smooth. You know, I think one of the things as it relates to this is that many people don't know how they got to that place, though. You know, they don't know how they got to the place where, you know, they're frustrated all of the time. They just know that they are.
Right.
You know, and they're not making the connection with, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, and you know, you can find yourself in that routine of life where literally each day you're just going through the motions. And that's a very, you know, difficult place to be in. When you don't know why you're mad, you just know you're mad. And you want better, but you don't know how to go about getting better.
Yeah.
And so that speaks to a lot of internal stuff that's going on. And then what ends up happening is you have people literally just blowing up, you know, because, you know, I hate my life. You know, I hate, you know, if this is all that life has to offer, then there has to be something else, you know. And so I like how you said that you have to take this examination and ask yourself about, what is the frustration telling you? Because once again, you know, if it's an external frustration, then, you know, the mindset or the concept would be to find a solution for that. But if it's an internal frustration, then I think that speaks to something in the character that needs to be addressed.
Most definitely. And I want to address, you know, when you're thinking yourself and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you say, you know what, I don't really measure up.
Yeah.
We have to really dive deep in understanding what about you makes you believe that you're not going to accomplish that.
Yeah.
I think when you can really go through that and understand what that is, then we can start going into a certain direction and understanding, okay, this is probably something that I need to address, or maybe I just need to address some of the people that I am around, because, you know, when we do have those big dreams and we don't feel like we have what it takes to really accomplish that, it can be so many different things, man.
It can.
And it can be just a lack of understanding. It can be, you know, just you overthinking. But what I always say when it comes down to overthinking, to me, that stems from lack of confidence. You know, when you're just not confident in your decision making, then you will go back and forth with yourself.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think another thing as it relates to that is that, like you said, you got to do the self-assessment.
Yeah.
Not only that, you know, as you mentioned, you got to ask yourself about the people that you surround yourself with. You know, one of the interesting things I think about Abraham, you know, when God first really speaks to him, the first thing he says is, you got to get away from your people. You got to get away from your family. And the reason why that was is because if you read the very short story leading up to God's conversation with Abram, his people had settled in a place of depression.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't see beyond depression. So it was necessary for him to get out of that environment, for him to start seeing bigger in hearing things about himself that would inspire him to really pursue after God. Another thing in relation to assessment is that once again the diet that you get. I'm not talking about the food diet. I'm talking about the mental diet. You got to change your mind. Be ye not conformed by the things of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind. What you and I talked about this before. Your ears, your eyes, your mouth, they're gates. GATES, gates, and you allow access into your heart through these gates. And so what you give your attention to, what ends up happening is it takes root. And so if you're always bombarding yourself with negativity, if you're always bombarding yourself with negative images, in a matter of time, that's going to be your reality. And so if you're around people who are speaking negative to you, if you're, listening stuff that reaffirms the negative, then what you are going to end up being is a very negative person.
Most definitely. And, some of us, we grew up with so many labels being thrown at us. Yeah. And unfortunately, we decided to allow those labels to stick. Yeah. And it's pretty difficult to really break away from something
That's true.
that you grew up with people constantly throwing on you. You're this, you're that. You'll never account to anything. You're this, you're that. And we have to really understand that, what God has created is a masterpiece. It's nothing less. And anything that does not align with that is false. We have to really understand that we have the option and the ability and the power to dictate whether those labels are going to stick. They don't have to stick. But let's just say, man, you do have a limitation. Let's just say you do have a flaw. Why does that one or two things have to be the determination of whatever you really want?
Well, first and foremost, we all have flaws. We all have limitations. I think we allow those flaws and limitations to be bigger than everything.
To override everything.
You can get 1,000 compliments, but that one negative, seems to override everything else. And if we're honest, we're oftentimes our own biggest critics.
Most definitely.
And so I want to use this magic word called grace. You got to have some grace for yourself. Forgive yourself and embrace the good things about yourself. Yeah. If you're always focusing on that negative thing, then you're going to be stuck. Making that the center of your focus. But if you can start to consider things that you do really well and then build upon those things, I believe you'll start to experience some great traction in your own life.
Most definitely. Celebrate everything.
Yeah,
Celebrate everything, because once again, we'll allow that big dream to diminish everything that we have already done. And we always say never look back. I say sometimes you gotta look back and just remind yourself how far you actually did come and how much you did learn. And you'll just be surprised that you actually do have the tools to start now. You actually do have what it takes to start now. And you probably don't have everything right now to accomplish it, but over time, you will eventually add another tool to your toolkit. You'll eventually add something else. Because, man, there was a lot of things that I just wanted to. With my youth program, I thought I had everything based upon my experience. But over time, I realized there was so much more that I needed to understand. But I had to understand if I didn't start, I wouldn't have learned those things. And by me allowing myself or saying, you know what, Dominique, you have more than what it takes to start now and really accomplish this thing. There's so many people that I've been in contact with. There's so many things that I've learned. There's so many mistakes that I've had. Yeah. And we always talk about the same thing, learning from those mistakes.
Exactly.
But it's relevant in so many areas in our lives. Just giving yourself a shot, giving yourself a chance to really learn something, to start somewhere.
And I want to make this announcement. I want you all to affirm yourselves with this. Know that God didn't make anything bad.
Right.
Nothing that God makes is bad, and we fall up under that umbrella of the things that He has made. And so, if you have a negative image of yourself, you have to get back to the original blueprint of who you are. and that speaks to identity. Because as we open up the show, I went to Proverbs 23, which says, "As a man thinketh, so is he." And so you have to start thinking about yourself differently if you want better in your life. At the end of the day, you can pursue all of the material things. You may get them, you may not, but the reality is that if you see yourself wrong, you're going to mishandle everything that is committed to your trust. There's an old saying, a very cliche saying, but it's true. It says, "Hurt people hurt people." If you're thinking negative about yourself, best believe that your relationships are a manifestation of what's going on the inside of you. And so even for those people that you love, you owe it to yourself to do that on your own inner work.
Most definitely. And I love affirmation declarations. But like you said, there's still some work that you have to do. And we can say everything in the book, but we have to actually have that mindset as well. So it all comes together. It's the affirmation declaration, it's the mindset, and it's the work as well.
Exactly.
So I really want people, if it is something that you really want to really pursue, really take some time out and list everything. List why it can happen. List what do you have now to really work towards
I
it.
like that.
List what can you work with now. Let's just focus on what can we work with right now, and build upon that. And then you'll realize that snowball is gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger while it's rolling downhill. And I really do believe if you incorporate everything that me and Dex has stated, I believe this is a good starting point, to really get guys to really get the ball rolling. But another thing is the encouragement, not just to you all, but there's at least one brother that we know that we're close to, and even if we're not close to, let's get in the habit of really encouraging them, because it's just something about getting that encouragement from our brothers. It's just something about reaching out and really giving somebody that push, because we all need it. I don't care how successful we are, how much money we got. I don't care what it is. We all need that, and it shouldn't seem corny. It shouldn't seem soft. It shouldn't seem uncomfortable for us to be vulnerable, and for us to, give that person or that man that push, saying, "Hey, bro, I know you're trying to accomplish X, Y, and Z. Stay on it. You got this. Just let me know what you got," and so forth.
Man, I tell you, I had a conversation with a brother, man. This was 2 days ago, man, and what he said just really, man, it resonated with me in such a powerful way. He said, "Man, we all need a cheerleader."
Yeah.
And really what he was talking about was, he was discouraged because everyone around him ridiculed his dream.
Yeah.
To the point that he got tired of talking about it. Everybody said, "Well, why would you leave this good career to pursue this?" And so, if you're around those type of people all the time, eventually, once again, you'll give up on your dream.
Yeah.
You'll start to see yourself from the wrong lens. And so, much to what you're saying, we all need somebody who can speak life to us, who can encourage us in those difficult moments. Not everybody's going to be able to go every place with you.
Yeah.
There will be times where you're going to have to muster it up on your own. But in those times when you're not in your alone seasons, make sure you're surrounding yourselves with people who can push you, and there's no ill will, but they can really, even if they don't see the vision like you see it, and they're not trying to discourage you from pursuing what's on your heart.
Yeah, I really like that last part. They don't have to always see the vision, but the fact of the matter is they're cheering. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I really enjoyed this. This is going to be the encouragement in the push that some people do need, and I really do believe that this is going to be a great help to some people. And if you enjoyed it, you can easily go to wytv7.org and easily make a monetary contribution and help support our vision. And those of you that have some ideas, have a vision, have some topics, ideas for topics, You can easily inbox on our Facebook page when men open up. You can easily email us when men open up at gmail.com and connect with us. We're doing this for you all, so we want to hear you all's feedback. Please share the video. Please share the broadcast. And if you want to share your business on our broadcast, you have the option to do that as well. So we do have some ad placements. So we do have that opportunity for you all. So if you're interested in that, get in contact with us. But once again, this is when men open up, when we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique.
And I'm Dexter.
And we are out. We'll see you all next week. Thank you.